the last stream that I did, one of the last things that I said was, oh, look, Georgia accidentally released what looks like an incomplete version of what will be the indictment they're planning to release. And then like 2 seconds after I ended stream, they did the indictment. And then I couldn't stream the next day because I spent that entire day running around Seattle screaming, do you have any chairs? Any big chairs? At people. And that took up like the whole day. And now here I am. They released the indictment. Also, it's exactly what I wanted, folks. You know, just imagine the Star Wars, like, opening credits playing in your head. Okay. It's a ton of charges. It's just split between a lot of people, too. So, over here, you have Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, Mark Meadows, Kenneth Chesbro, Jeffrey Clark, Jenna Ellis, Ray Smith, Robert Cheeley, Michael Roman, David Schaefer, Sean Still, Stephen Lee, Harrison Floyd, Trevin Cootie, Sidney Powell, bet you remember that one, Kathleen Latham, Scott Hall, and Misty Hampton, a.k.a. Emily Misty Hayes. Phenomenal. Guys, they did it. They charged the whole goddamn Trump team. It's actually great. This is phenomenal news. These are state charges coming out of Georgia state prosecutors, meaning that they cannot be pardoned by a president. They would have to be pardoned by the governor. And it's not just Donald Trump, it's his whole team. This is what I've been talking about, folks. The main thing that I've been worried about is the idea of Donald Trump being the sole and only scapegoat, when in reality, it took hundreds and hundreds of willing co-conspirators to bring him to the point, no, the governor can't pardon. Is that true? It's a separate board? Never mind. My apologies. I heard otherwise. They can't be pardoned. It's just going right out there. Thank you for the correction. I'm really happy to see this because remember, Trump is just an idiot fall guy, right? He's like a damp boy. He's just like the loud, charismatic blob they could push into office in order to obtain power. What if Trump became president again? Our democracy would be swiftly dismantled, and Trump would very quickly cease to be the one in charge. Sure, obviously he would be like the face of it all, but once you dismantle democracy, there's no reason for the president to be the one who does the decision-making, obviously. It would just consolidate into a kind of generalized GOP-centric autocracy, which is why it's essential for it not only to be Trump who gets in trouble for all of this nonsense, but also all of the people who helped him. Now, obviously, far more people helped him than just the people listed here, but, you know, they can't actually indict the entire GOP with one paper. As much as I would like that, that would be delightful. It's not happening, but this is a really, really, really great second. In terms of the specific charges, okay, I mean, you can see the charges over here on the right. I want to learn a little bit more about charge number 8, that is impersonating a police officer. I really want to know some details on that one, like really badly. Who's being charged with that? That's charge number 8. Who is 8 listed for here? David Schaefer and Sean Still and Kathleen Latham. I really, really want to know more about that. Oh, public officer, not police officer. My bad. And then conspiracy to commit impersonating a public officer. I want to know by what, like, to what degree we're talking impersonation here, you know? I just want to know if they put a uniform on, personally. Right up here at the top, violation of the Georgia RICO Act. So let's learn a little bit about RICO charges. Who here likes drug and crime shows? You know, who here knows a little bit about RICO charges? A little spicy, a little spooky. Fosh, it's not good to indict someone after they did everything right. That's true, that's true. This is a dark day for our country, for sure. Law and Order is a show. It is a show, that is true. Let's read and find out. Because if I try to talk about it, I'm going to say something wrong. All were charged with violating Georgia's RICO, that is Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organization Act. Indictment handed up to the judge around 9 p.m., made public just before 11 p.m. Tell me more about RICO charges. Tell me more. Tell me more about RICO charges specifically. You had it in the title. Tell me more. Tell me more. God damn it. We'll go straight to the source on this one. What is RICO? Tell me more about RICO. Yeah, as I understand it, Rudy Giuliani popularized the use of RICO charges in dealing with, like, what, conspiracy? So it is pretty funny that he's being indicted for them. You know, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. For the mob, yeah, he used it to take down the mob. Giuliani's RICO connection right there. Yeah, let's see. The state law, which is commonly referred to as RICO, is similar to the federal version that targets so-called criminal enterprises. Georgia's law allows prosecutors to pull an array of conduct, including activities that took place outside the state of Georgia but may have been part of a broad conspiracy, into their indictments. Those convicted of racketeering charges also face steeper penalties, a point of leverage for prosecutors if they're hoping to flip potential co-conspirators or encourage defendants to take plea deals. So, basically, my understanding of this, and it's a very limited understanding, okay, is that RICO is a big red button that you can dramatically smash down in the prosecutor's office. And basically, it means we now have a wider range of things that we can tie together in the evidence we're putting forward against you. It basically means that we're now treating this not just as like a single specific incident, but rather this broad general collection of behaviors. I'm sure there's a lot of like specific legal stuff that goes into it, but you know, I'm not a lawyer. You can watch Legal Eagle for that. I'm sure he'll have a video out in it either now or like in a day or so you can take a look at that. However, I want to talk about the social side of things a little bit more. First of all, delightful to see heavy state charges brought against Trump and his co-conspirators. Also, worth pointing out, unlike the pussies working at the federal level, from this, we are getting not only a televised trial, potentially, but a mugshot. The people have confirmed that they are going to be getting a mugshot of the co-conspirators at the arraignment. So I believe the due date for their arrival, for their arrest warrant in Georgia is the 25th of this month, or 9 days from right now. Meaning that we are finally in the public record going to get the mugshot. We are going to get the height and the weight of Donald Trump officially, finally. We are going to get, if we get a televised trial with Donald Trump, it will be the funniest thing to have ever been put on television. Nothing else even comes close. A televised trial, my God. You know, I have wanted a televised trial for Donald Trump for a long time, because the reports that we've gotten of him when he's not being televised is that he's sullen and kind of like weak. And the times when he plays it up is when he knows that he's being recorded. So the thing here is that Donald Trump has no self-control and is incapable of not perjuring himself when he's energetic. And I think that being on TV will make him lie a lot. I think he's going to himself over if he's on TV, because if he's off TV, he's just going to slump there and he's going to do what his lawyers tell him mostly, I think. But if he is on TV, he's going to try to play up everything and it's going to destroy him. It's going to tear him apart. It'll be Alex Jones 2.0, except Alex Jones has more self-control than Trump does, incredibly. It's going to be like that, but worse. It's going to be, yeah, so good. So I really want to see that, and I want to see the mugshot. Couldn't the televised trial be used to the right's advantage? That's the thing. I don't think so, because you can't actually get away with grandstanding like that when you're under oath. Because if you're under oath, like, you can be interrupted or shut down at any time by a number of people in the court. You know, you can't just like ramble on and on and on. Donald Trump's rhetoric, his vocation has always been about rambling on and on and on. Think about it. Alex Jones had his trial broadcast. Did that trial look good for him? No. He embarrassed himself constantly. He looked like a petulant, whiny baby. It was barely even good content for him and for his viewers. Sure, they got off in the whole he's being persecuted thing, but imagine if it wasn't like publicly available, and then Alex Jones could just like lie about what happened in there, like he was this big, courageous, chest puffed out guy, and the judge was being evil and Jewish in him or whatever. He could have lied and said whatever. I like the televised trial. I am fully behind this. I fully stand by this. Additionally, it's worth pointing out that it is almost certain that some people are going to flip on Trump. Think about it. We have 18 co-conspirators here that are all being charged with, like, serious crimes. The likelihood of every single one of them standing, you know, and going down with the ship, so to speak, really unlikely. Like, think about it. Donald Trump is bleeding a ton of money with his legal showing, and he's one guy, and he's wealthy. Imagine how expensive it'll be for all 18 of those co-conspirators to spend essentially the rest, you know, like constantly delay, appeal, do this, do that, this legal team, that legal team. And keep in mind, you know, this is very much like the burden of being a 17th century pirate. You know, you probably know this if you saw that CGP Grey video, but repairing a ship cost a lot more as a pirate because you couldn't go to just any old dock. You had to go explicitly to docks that don't have any association with the crown, right? So you would have to go all the way over to the Caribbean to get some minor damage on your ship repaired. in essence, taking hits is more expensive when you're not in line with the law, you know? It's just like that for Trump. Do you know how much his legal team costs? Because you don't just need lawyers if you're Trump. Regular lawyers aren't going to touch this. That's the reason why Trump's legal team is full of grifters and lunatics and ideologues. You need true believers on your team, because otherwise the lawyers are going to be like, okay, yeah, well, you know, they're going to be like, okay, well, here's what you can do, and it's not much. He needs lunatics. He's always had lunatics, but a lot of them have run out on him. Every single one of those co-conspirators is going to need a legal team just as willing to lie. And if even one of them flips, that's an incentive for the rest of them to flip. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, normal lawyers would recommend a plea deal. Absolutely they would. But even a plea deal in this case implicates other co-conspirators, because if one member of the, if one co-conspirator is like, okay, I'll plead guilty to this crime, but not the others, then it's like, oh, okay, wow, that sure makes everyone else look if that one had to take a plea deal in order to escape spending 50 years in prison or whatever. It looks pretty bad. You know? You guys understand what I'm talking about, right? This is how you bring down the mob. It's how you bring down conspiracy, and it's how you're going to bring down Trump. You don't just go after one guy. You go after all of them, because all it takes is, it's like building a house of cards. It's far more likely that they're going to get over if you put them in this position. Ideally, I'd like more people to be on trial. You know, there are plenty of Republican politicians who are complicit as well, but right now we're just talking about Trump's team. You know, right now we're just talking about his specific group. Do you think the RNC might bar Trump from running with them? No. Trump is still going to run, and he's going to win the nomination. Looks like Mark Meadows is most likely to flip. He's certainly not the least likely candidate. Meadows has already faced speculation that he flipped as part of special counsel Jack Smith's federal investigation. It was reported earlier in the year Meadows was no longer in frequent communication with Trump, despite being a key figure in Smith's probe. Meadows was also not one of the 6 co-conspirators listed in the federal indictment against Trump, in which the former president later pleaded not guilty to 4 charges. So yeah, it's likely that Meadows has already cooperated heavily with Jack Smith in the DOJ special counsel investigation. Though keep in mind that these charges happening here are state charges. They're not being done by the DOJ. Well, we'll see what he does with the state charges, Board. The DA wants the Trump trial to begin March 4th, 2024. Oh, content. My God. So this is for the Georgia state charges. This is not for the federal charges in D.C. pertaining to the Jan 6 behavior. Oh my God, good Lord. So what does this mean, right? Legally, I think it's basically confirmed that Donald Trump is... I don't know if he's going to spend the rest of his life juggling himself between legal cases, or if he's going to spend the rest of his life appealing, or if he's actually going to go to jail. But this is too much. This is too much for one person. This is ridiculous. He has nearly 100 charges against him, all of them potentially carrying prison. Like this, it's ridiculous. It's so much. So he's pretty well and truly... It's probably not going to pull him out of the race, because he's still by far like the most likely person to win the primary, and he knows that, and there's nothing legally preventing him from running from prison or jail or whatever stage of the legal process he might be at any point in time. However, I think that this is kind of a death knell for the GOP. Do you guys think this might be one of the reasons why the GOP wanted so badly to shift over to DeSantis? Why all of a sudden the Daily Wire and the Fox News and a ton of other GOP associated publications were all like, "Hey, let's all go over to this not legally completely boned guy," Because people behind the scenes of the GOP know more about what Trump has coming to him than we do, obviously. They literally have people in positions of power. They have people in DOJ. They have people in Congress and the Senate and what have you. So of course they would know this is coming. And I think they really wanted to, get the GOP voter base kind of keened on to somebody who isn't going to be hit with, 5 trillion charges that could all put him in jail. So I think that this is looking really bad for them. I also think this is kind of like a put up or shut up moment, right? Because the right has been screaming for years now that they're going to do a revolution, day of the rope, day of the storm, whatever. How long have they been talking about this? They've been doing it nonstop. They've been doing it non-stop. They've been saying, "Oh, well, we're gonna overwhelm we're gonna rise to power," all this bullshit. Is it actually going to happen? I don't think so. I think that the GOP voter base is actually feeling quite deflated right now. See, We got January 6th because they were built up to a fever pitch. There was this heightened state of agitation. A lot of this was, because of the Black Lives Matter protests, where a lot of Republicans felt like, oh, our country is being burned to the ground by black people and Antifa, like people are angry, people are amped up, people are agitated. And then January 6th happens. You have like the peak, the crescendo of this energy. But I don't think the energy is there right now, folks. I really don't. Not to say that the GOP is done or that they've lost or that all the voters have changed their mind or anything, but hysteria takes a lot of effort to maintain. And if you'll remember correctly, the 6 months before January 6th were a nonstop 24/7 hysteria machine. A single narrative coalescing around the mail-in ballots, Donald Trump, the upcoming stolen election, then the election was stolen. There's 50 pieces of evidence every day that the election was being stolen by Democrats, this, that. Everyone was on board. It took every drop of energy, every drop of effort the GOP had, the media apparatus turned towards one specific cause. Folks, you need to understand, if you don't remember or if you weren't there for it, every right-wing politician, pundit, every single one of them, 24/7, one narrative. And what do they have right now? Trans people. Trans people. Not enough. Sorry, it's not enough. I don't think the right-wing hysteria is up to par. I don't think it's capable of doing what they need to do in order to win here. DeSantis can't win. He cannot win. He is not liked enough, not even close. Donald Trump is either going to be in jail or prison or spend a very long time being bounced between, court hearings and trial appointments and such. So that's his problem. What's their solution? Just get another guy rose up to prominence super quick? No. I think that they have two real options here, and only two. I genuinely think it's down to two. They either need a hitherto unknown source of unimaginable energy and violence to manifest itself and do unspeakably TOS things in order to seize power at the right moment, or Joe Biden wins again and humiliates the right, maybe for years to come. I genuinely think those are the only two options, and I really think the latter is more likely. In fact, with how bad things are getting right now for Trump, it's even possible that if Biden dies, Kamala Harris could actually win against him from prison. Even then, we don't know what legal consequences there would be to a president in prison serving out a sentence. We don't actually know how that would pan out. And I really, really hope that I don't have to rep Kamala Harris. Please, God, don't put me in that position. However, I'm just saying, this is just so bad for the GOP. It's insanely bad, you know? What if the Republican Party just puts forward DeSantis without voter input? Then he would lose even to Kamala Harris. DeSantis would lose even to Kamala Harris. Yeah. There's no law that prevents people from participating in an election when they're in jail or prison. Chris Christie is trying to run right now as the GOP anti-Trump option, which is smart for Chris Christie, but it's not going to work, at least not on this timescale. Chris Christie might be able to do something meaningful by 2028, but right now in 2024, this is still the Trump party. I think that there will be an attempt at great violence, but I do not think it's going to be enough to succeed. Because, we're not talking about like, oh, here's one guy on a clock tower. We're talking about like the simultaneous seizure of multiple apparatus of power and then the coordination necessary to keep the National Guard from coming in and killing all of them. Revolutions, as it turns out, are really difficult. This is why the left keeps losing. It's really easy to get institutional support as a fascist because fascists are a calcified, growth of the establishment in a way that socialists are not. The actual revolutionary path to power is not easy. Even with overwhelming and surgically targeted violence, I have a feeling that, I don't see it, man. I'm feeling pretty good right now. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm being too optimistic, but I try to keep it real with you guys. I've been ringing the alarm bells on the transgenocide stuff longer than almost anyone. I believe very firmly in many of the negative predictions that I've made. So if I then treat this with an equal degree of sincerity. I feel pretty good about how this is going. What if it goes like Hitler and the Munich Putsch? I don't really think that's an option. They would have to break Trump out of prison. I don't think it would work. Vosh, they're saying these cases won't have a verdict until after the election if he's in power and gets jail time. Well, first of all, he wouldn't be able to pardon all of these. Second of all, that's not necessarily the case. Some of these might potentially have earlier verdicts. Like some of the Jack Smith things were like, yeah, we'll have this done in 3 weeks, baby, which, whatever, we'll see. And third of all, keep in mind, how is he going to campaign if he's being juggled between a bunch of different trials? Right now, all he's doing is showing up for arraignments. That's a one-time thing. Do you really think he's going to be able to effectively campaign to visit swing states to push his messaging when, like, he's got 2 court appointments a day and he's, like, frantically flying between, like, Florida, D.C., and Georgia? And God only knows what other fucking trials are going to open up, like, trying to pat all these fires down, Yeah, it's not, and New York, yeah, it's not good. But Vaush, he's getting free press coverage outside the courthouse every time. I don't think it's to his favor. Everyone in America already knows who Donald Trump is. This isn't like 2016 where him getting any coverage is good for him because he's trying to like rise in the ranks. Everyone already knows that he exists. Now the only coverage he's going to be getting is him coming out dejected from like 67 like court appointments. Like what? It's not good, folks. You guys have to understand how expensive and tiring running a campaign is. Now imagine doing that while also juggling 4 ongoing DOJ/state trials, while 17 other co-conspirators are either going to flip or are flipping on you. I wouldn't have the energy for it, and I'm almost 30. He's like almost 80. There's no way. No, he's not going to have the energy for it. Nobody would. Even a young man. And he's old. He's going to die of a heart attack? He might. I don't know, Vaush, it's not a good look. He'll claim persecution. As opposed to when? You mean as opposed to all the previous times that he hasn't claimed persecution? He's been doing all of this for a long time. All of the stuff you guys are worried about him saying. Do you think he needs the excuse of the court cases to get cameras on him? All he has to do is do a rally and everyone listens to what he says. You're worried that he'll get the attention. He already had it. But he's been on TV less and less lately, hasn't he? Have you noticed that? Donald Trump was on TV tons a year and a half ago, even a year ago. But now these court cases are ramping up, and his lawyers are getting more and more tired, and he's not paying bills, and he's more spread out than he ever has been. No, folks, I think we have good reason to be positive, okay? I will hear none of this negative Nancy bullshit in chat. I don't care. I'm sorry, I just don't. I get it, folks. Be realistic. Understand the limits. Trust your opposition's ability to surprise you. I get it. But take a dub now and again. Take a dub. It's cool. It's all right. Do you have any idea how hard the right would be celebrating if Biden was caught up in 100 charges? Take a dub. Learn to take a deep breath and relax. Will bad things continue to happen in the future? Yes. Unquestionably, they will. But today, a good thing happens. And I think it's irresponsible to not appreciate that. Chat's fears just aren't reflected in the polling data. No, they're not. The GOP base is supporting Trump. Of course they are. They always will. But he doesn't have the support from everyone else, second and third paragraph. Yeah, people always make this mistake where they see Trump having this unwavering base of support from the GOP and they're like, oh shit, he's still polling really high. No. The GOP represent about 30% of the country. They will always support Trump. But that's not the whole story. This is from yesterday. Nearly 2/3 of Republicans now say they want the former president to run again. Guys, that means even now, with DeSantis and Vivek being nobodies, 37% of the GOP don't want him to run again. Trump faces glaring vulnerabilities heading towards a general election, with many Americans strongly dug in against him. While most Republicans, 3/4, said they would support him in November 2024, 53% of Americans said they would definitely not support him if he is the nominee. Another 11% say they would probably not support him in November 2024. So just in general polling, that's 64% against him. That's nearly 2-1, 36 to 64. The findings bolster the arguments of some of Trump's rivals for the Republican nomination who laud his tenure as president, but warn he can't win in a general election when he must compete for votes beyond the GOP base. Trump lost the popular vote in the 2016 campaign, then he lost it by an even larger margin in 2020. Look at his approval rating at the moment. God, I hope he wins the primary. He will. Trump's favorability rating is below 40 right now. People, they take a look at like the base of ultra support. That's the thing, A lot of people will kind of sigh and shrug and support Joe Biden. Okay, again, I've said it before, but I'll put it this way again, okay? The people who vote for Donald Trump will always rank him favorably and will never rank him unfavorably because they're in a cult. I will be voting for Joe Biden, but if asked by RCP, I would rank him unfavorably. You see? There are lots of people who don't really like Joe Biden, but who understand that he's better than Trump and will vote accordingly. Whereas the Venn diagram between people who support Trump and people who will vote for Trump is basically 1-to-1. The only thing that would change that would be if the Dems fielded such an extremist candidate that people would do this utilitarian, better him than him vote for Trump on the other side. And that would be like what, Pinochet? Like, I don't know. That's not really the situation we're in right now. This is actually maybe the one demographic bias that favors moderate candidates, which is that when you take a look at polling data, things tend to be deceptively good for that, or like things are better than they look because more people are willing to do a deep sigh and vote for them as they consolidate the vote. Will we see another candidate try to overturn an election like Trump did, or is this just a unique Trump thing? Nobody but Trump at the moment could do what Trump attempted to do. There is no other GOP candidate with the charisma and populist appeal that would allow them to do like a successful January 6th. Is this the beginning of the end for the GOP? Well, where's the age breakdown of party identification? Here we go, U.S. party identification. So this is the reason why people like Vivek have, and others have advocated raising the minimum age to vote. This is a proportion of the voter base from every generation. The silent generation has more Republicans than Democrats. The boomer generation does too, though not by much. They're pretty close. Likewise with Gen X, because Gen X is terrible. Thank you. Keep in mind that the youngest Gen Xers were born about 45 years ago. Then we have millennials over here where, whoa, hold up a second. Now for the first time, Democrats are significantly in the lead over Republicans. And then Gen Z, where it's almost 2-to-1. You'll notice an increasing number of independents here. What's important to understand is that the percentage of people voting Democrat, or let's say identifying as Democrat, it stays roughly the same, whereas Republican shrinks precipitously. If you take like literally all the data we have on people's relationship between like liberalism and party affiliation and age, indicates that the younger you go, the more radically left-leaning they get. Because a lot of those independents are like leftists, you know, like radical leftists. All the info we have on this. I mean, hold on, like really quick. 2020 presidential results by age group. Could just do that. Here, the 2020 electorate by party, age, religion, blah, blah, blah. Okay, hold on. Let me find the age here. I feel like they could block this out a little bit better. Could there be a backslide, though? There always could be, but man, take the dub when you can, you know? So this is support from younger people in the 2016, 2018, and 2020 elections by proportion. And as we look at like the 18 to 29 demographic over here, in 2016, that was 58 Clinton to 28 Trump. In 2018, that was 72 Dem to 23 Republican. And then in 2020, that was 59 Dem, 35 Republican. Like there's a huge slant towards Dem at every level with regards to younger people. Could we live to see the fall of the GOP? Is it true? I don't know if they're going to fall, but they're definitely going to lose prominence proportionally as more and more, there we go, as more and more young people vote. All the Gen Zers. Here's an exit poll from 2020. You notice a slight shift? This is ridiculous. Like, this is why the GOP is terrified. Just trying to give you guys some good news, man. I feel like people in chat are so cynical that they really fight it, you know? We've been hurt before. I'll keep covering. You know, we had a decent amount of voter turnout in 2020 as well. It's probably going to be even more in 2024. We estimate 50% of young people aged 18 to 29 voted in the 2020 presidential election, a remarkable 11-point increase from 2016, and likely one of the highest rates of youth electoral participation since the voting age was lowered to 18. This is why the GOP are mandating PragerU educational materials in your school? Unironically, yes. That is true. Just feeling hopeful. Yeah, Tim Pool has always been doing the screaming about Civil War shit, you know? Like, that's his favorite thing to do. Like, oh, what if, you know, big civil resistance, Civil War, whatever. It just doesn't really mean anything. Yeah, only 5K likes is pretty sad, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not seeing much energy from the GOP base when it comes to doing this whole like insurrection thing. I just don't, yeah. What do you think Trump supporters will do when he is imprisoned? I mean, they're going to do this like lost cause narrative about it interminably, but I don't know. More optimism. Democrats nearly won Texas 2020. If it weren't for the AG throwing out votes, libs and lefties should now be focused on fighting GOP voter suppression tendencies. Yeah. We talked about this when it was happening, but like there was like a wave of voter suppression in Texas that that led to the outcome. You know, I don't know if it would have actually turned things over in the state, but Texas is totally possible in 2024, especially if Trump's in prison. If Texas turns blue, if we actually do succeed in getting a Blexus and we manage to hold on, okay. So let's think for a second, okay? Let's think for a second, like on the voting map, okay? 2020 voting map state, okay? Like we can make some pretty basic predictions, I think. Based on what's been happening at the state government level, I think it's pretty fair to say that Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan are staying blue. Like the idea of these shifting back over to red with all of the work that's been done internally seems incredibly unlikely to me. Georgia is almost certainly going to stay blue. I think I think we've got that one secured. You know, Arizona could go either way. Obviously, Colorado is going to stay. New Mexico is going to stay. If Texas was made blue, though, that would be like it, basically. If we could ever pull out like a proper Blexus, that would be it. I feel it would be Jover. That's correct. Is that a goddamn baby? What are you doing with that leg? What are you doing with that stanky leg?